Your 30s are usually the first decade where money starts feeling serious all the time. In your 20s, financial mistakes often felt temporary. You overspent, you recovered, took a trip you couldn't afford, you figured it out somehow, made questionable budgeting decisions for months. Life kept moving, but your 30s feel different because now the stakes are bigger. You're thinking about retirement, career stability, maybe buying a home, maybe kids, maybe supporting aging parents, maybe just trying to build a life that doesn't constantly feel financially fragile. And this is usually the decade where people realize something uncomfortable. Making more money does not automatically create financial stability. A lot of people in their 30s are earning more than ever, while also feeling more financial pressure than ever before. That's why this decade matters so much. The financial habits you build here tend to follow you for a very long time. So in this video, I want to walk through the financial milestones that actually matter during your 30s. Not unrealistic internet goals. Not become a millionaire by 35 nonsense. Real milestones that make your future life calmer, stronger, and more stable. And somewhere around the middle of this list is the habit that quietly separates people who build long-term wealth from people who always feel stuck, no matter how much they earn. So let's start with the first one. One of the biggest financial milestones in your 30s is eliminating high-interest consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, huge car payments, anything charging expensive interest while draining your monthly cash flow, because debt starts feeling heavier once adult responsibilities pile up. In your 20s, carrying a balance may have felt manageable. In your 30s, it starts competing with everything else you're trying to build: savings, investments, emergency funds, family goals. And the dangerous part is that debt usually grows quietly. A payment here, a financed purchase there, something that fits the monthly budget. Then suddenly a large portion of your income is already committed before the month even begins. That's why eliminating high-interest debt creates more than financial relief. It creates breathing room. And once you experience that breathing room, the next milestone becomes much easier to focus on: building a real emergency fund. Not a few $100s sitting in checking, an actual emergency fund. Because your 30s introduce a completely different category of problems: home repairs, medical bills, unexpected layoffs, family emergencies, car repairs that always seem to happen at the worst possible time. And what makes these situations stressful isn't always the expense itself. It's the feeling of having no margin. That's why emergency savings change your financial life so dramatically. They give you options. Instead of putting emergencies on a credit card, you handle them. Instead of panicking through setbacks, you recover from them. Most people don't realize how valuable that feeling is until they finally have it. Now here's where things start getting interesting, because many people think financial progress is mostly about increasing income. But in your 30s, one of the most important skills is controlling lifestyle inflation. This is where many people quietly sabotage themselves. Their income grows, but so does every category of spending: a more expensive apartment, a newer car, more convenient spending, more subscriptions, more expensive habits that slowly become normal. And individually, none of these upgrades feel irresponsible. That's what makes lifestyle inflation dangerous. It rarely feels reckless while it's happening, but over time, it creates a situation where someone earning significantly more money still feels financially stretched every month. The people who build long-term wealth usually avoid this trap in one important way. When their income increases, they increase savings and investments first, not just spending. That one habit creates an enormous difference later. And speaking of long-term differences, the next milestone matters more than most people realize. Retirement investing stops being optional. Because your 30s are still one of the best decades for compound growth to work in your favor, you still have time on your side, but not unlimited time anymore. And a lot of people lose valuable years because retirement still feels too far away to prioritize seriously. Then suddenly, they're in their 40s, trying to catch up aggressively. The good news is that retirement success usually isn't built through complicated investing strategies. It's built through consistency, contributing regularly, increasing contributions gradually, and staying invested long enough for growth to compound. That's usually what matters most. Now, another milestone people often ignore until they're forced to think about it: protecting your financial life. This includes things like insurance coverage, updated beneficiaries, estate planning, and organizing important documents. Not because you expect something bad to happen tomorrow, but because your financial life becomes more interconnected in your 30s. If you own a home, share finances with someone, have children, or support family members. Protecting what you've built becomes part of being financially responsible. And most people realize this much later than they should. You begin realizing that financial health and physical health are connected far more closely than you expected, because your ability to earn, focus, work, and make good decisions depends heavily on your energy and health. Poor sleep, burnout, constant stress, ignoring preventative care, those things eventually become financial problems too. That's why investing in your health during your 30s isn't just a lifestyle decision. It's a financial decision. And no, that doesn't mean trying to optimize every second of your day. It simply means recognizing that your future becomes harder to enjoy if your health keeps getting pushed aside. Now, somewhere around the middle of your 30s, many people also start thinking more seriously about the future beyond themselves. Maybe that means children. Maybe it means supporting parents. Maybe it means creating more long-term stability overall, which brings us to another major milestone: planning ahead intentionally instead of reacting financially. For some people, this means education savings. For others, it means increasing investments. For others, it means finally building a long-term financial plan instead of making isolated money decisions month to month. And this is where a lot of financial stress starts disappearing, because clarity reduces anxiety. When you know what you own, what you owe, what you're building toward, and how your money is being used, financial decisions become much less overwhelming. That leads directly into another milestone that matters more than people think: building financial confidence. Not fake confidence. Not pretending everything's fine while avoiding your bank account. Real confidence. The kind that comes from understanding your situation clearly. You know your numbers. You know your goals. You know your systems. You know what progress looks like for you. And that changes your relationship with money completely. Unexpected expenses feel more manageable. Financial decisions become calmer. Setbacks feel less emotional. That confidence doesn't happen automatically as income rises. It usually comes from consistency, organization, and experience. And honestly, this final milestone might be the most important one of all: learning how to think long-term, because your 30s are where financial habits start compounding in very noticeable ways. The good habits compound, the bad habits compound, the discipline compounds, the avoidance compounds. Everything becomes more visible later. That's why small decisions matter so much during this decade. Not because one mistake ruins your future, but because repeated patterns quietly shape it over time. And the good news is that you do not need to become perfect with money overnight. You don't need the perfect investment portfolio. You don't need a flawless budget. You don't need every part of your financial life figured out immediately. You just need progress, consistent progress, because most financially stable people did not build stability through one massive breakthrough moment. They built it gradually. One smart decision at a time, one habit at a time, one improvement at a time. And your 30s are still early enough for those decisions to make an enormous difference later. So if you feel behind financially right now, don't focus on fixing everything at once. Pick one area, pay down the debt, increase retirement contributions, build the emergency fund, organize your finances, create a real plan. Because the earlier you create financial stability, the more freedom you create for every decade that comes after this one. And if you made it all the way through this video, let me know in the comments which financial milestone you're focusing on most right now. Because sometimes the biggest financial change isn't doing everything perfectly. It's finally deciding to take your future seriously.